welcome to this introductory demonstration of Infor Quality Management System. You might hear me call it IQM or just simply quality. My plan is to give you a brief description of some of the, I'll call them subsystems or modules that are included in Infor Quality Management System, but then to drill into areas that I have found over the years are of the most common interest to companies requiring a quality management or quality assurance system. To do that, I'm going to simply walk around this block, if you will, and give you that high-level overview of some of these areas. And I'm going to start right there with this area in gold that says suppliers, customers, and employees. This is an area where, from a quality standpoint, I can augment the information that I might contain in my ERP system as it relates to customers, suppliers, and employees. The kind of information that I might want to use or to add are things like audits. I might go visit my suppliers and want to document and standardize the audits or surveys that I do with them, the results of those surveys. Those results may be actionable, and I might want to start a nonconformance or corrective action here in the quality system to make sure that that those actionable items are taken care of. Now, I can also be auditing employees and their records. I can do internal audits in preparation for other audits. I can do those internal audits as steps to make sure that I'm meeting all of my requirements for risk mitigation. They can also be audits that I am subject to, where I'm putting those audits in, documenting those, and putting the findings right into this system that, again, can lead me to those actionable findings that I may need to take care of with corrective actions, etc. In that same area, I can receive feedback from my customers, suppliers, and employees. From suppliers and employees, they may be suggestions. From customers, they might be complaints. And once again, this is a place to document and then to make actionable those feedback items where I may need to get back to the customer, I may need to get to a resolution before I get back to them, and I don't want that to fall between the cracks. So here, when it's in the quality system, that when it's documented there, it's on someone's to-do list, so it doesn't fall between the cracks, and I can make sure that those items get handled. This quality system also includes the ability to record my employees' skills. I can also create courses that I run internally that specify what the curriculum is, who should be attending, what skills will be earned, the attendance and scoring of each of those employees to earn those skills. So I can keep track of that kind of information. There's also a project management area here. One of a common example in quality for a project is a root cause analysis. And we'll see that in action, where a project has a team leader, it has members assigned to that team that might be customers, suppliers, or employees. Those projects can, the agendas and meeting minutes and action items from those projects are all documented here in the quality system. Also in IQM is the ability to specify the equipment that I have and the devices that I have that may require preventative maintenance and calibration management. So I can do the scheduling of that maintenance and calibration. I can keep folks from using devices that may be outside of calibration. And once again, we'll probably see an example of that, but that's one good example of the systems working together, where as I have an inspection plan, like we see here, we'll talk about in a moment, as I have an inspection plan that tells me what to inspect, what characteristics to inspect, when to inspect, how often, how many, and with what devices. If the inspector tells me during a data collection activity that they have chosen a device that the system knows is outside of calibration, it's going to lock them right out of recording or being able to inspect using that particular device, therefore eliminating the introduction of new error by using that outside of calibration device. So, so know that those systems are built into the quality system as well. Under planning, I have the ability to manage advanced product quality plans, APQPs. Also, product part approval process is built right in here. Those things are very common in the automotive industry, not so common in other industries, although I am seeing it more in aerospace and defense and medical device. I'll talk a little bit about what each of those are so that we know what I'm referring to. So by definition, advanced product quality planning is very much about planning for a product through its life cycle, from initial concept through development, prototyping, testing, even market testing, and out through the first run, and then multiple runs and continuous improvement, and even end-of-life planning. So as the definition suggests, yep, it's 75% planning, mostly about that planning, 25% is the execution and measurement and the continuous improvement. Once again, I mostly see this utilized within the automotive, aerospace and defense, and medical device world. We probably won't get too much into it today, but know that it's part of the built-in as part of the system if it's an area you need to use and want some more information on a follow-up demo. Production part approval process is used by the supply chain, mostly to get that handshake and confidence between the customer and you as the supplier. That's usually how that works out. So it's a very formal process, once again, initiated and started by the automotive industry, but now utilized in other industries as well. The whole purpose is to minimize to bring down that risk of failure and showing the customer that there has been a full understanding of the design process and what is expected of that supplier. It includes the recording of things like control plans, test results, FMEAs, etc. Now, independent of your industry, whether you're in that automotive industry, medical device, or aerospace and defense, or outside of those industries, inspection plans is a very common area that's utilized in the quality system. This is the document. This is how I know what I am to inspect, what characteristics I am to inspect, how often I'm going to inspect, if I'm inspecting a sample, or if I'm inspecting 100%, if I'm doing an in-process inspection or a incoming inspection. I may have multiple in-process inspections. So what is it I'm to inspect? How many am I to inspect? And with what? How am I doing that measurement? Is it simply a pass-fail inspect to print? Or is it pick up a particular caliper, take a measurement, the standard is X, the tolerance is this, and having the system lead me to whether or not I have a conformance or non-conformance there when I record my results during data collection. We're going to drill into this area in a moment after we're done with the very high-level overview. Documentation is a big part of the quality system. Here in documentation management, I have the ability to attach documents or to link out or embed those documents and attach to processes that I may have defined, products that I have listed. This document management system includes auditing of that documentation, change management, check-in, check-out. It could be procedures. There are level 2 and level 3 ISO templates that come with the system. If you're just embarking on that journey, it can be very helpful. If you're already completed your ISO journey, then it can serve as a good double check to make sure that your procedures marry up to those to those templates or to change the templates to match your procedure to let the system house your quality manual. This area, data collection, nonconformance, corrective action, that's where, I'm telling you, I think that's where the rubber hits the road with the quality system. So it's time to inspect, and I use the data collection area to record my findings of an inspection. I will refer to that inspection plan to know what it is I am to inspect, but that inspection may result in a nonconformance that I want to do a root cause analysis and get to a corrective action. It could have been that the data collection is around an audit. I did an audit and recorded my findings, and that audit led to a nonconformance, etc. But so I think this is really the area where once again the rubber hits the road. So I intend to take us through a demonstration of details of collecting that data, showing it move to a we'll fail something. We'll show how it moves to a nonconformance, what nonconformances are about, corrective actions, what they're about, root cause analysis, and then we'll spend some time on something I call a homepage here. But before I leave this monopoly board of quality management system, I wanted to point out that as I'm collecting data here, of course I have built-in tools like Pareto charts and histograms and X-bar and R charts that allow me to analyze that data. There's also SPC where I can do further analysis. I can have custom SPC studies and results that I'm putting into the system to help utilize that tool set to find out how I'm trending and where I have opportunities for improvement. We already spoke of quality management that I can, of audit management, but just know that I can have audits of all types, whether that's periodic audits to ensure safety, to mitigate risk, to even look into environmental health and safety, or if it's an audit like I mentioned before, where I audit my suppliers annually or quarterly, and I want to standardize and document those findings, those questions, and then those findings. There's also cost of quality built in here. So as I'm performing any of the activities that we've spoke of so far, I can be letting the system know how much time was spent on each of those activities so that I get a full cost of quality, not just the cost of inspection time. I can get the cost that I spent in a root cause analysis meeting, in an MRB meeting, the time that I spent creating control plans and FMEAs and inspection plans, etc. So that is a very, very quick, in just a few minutes, high level of what the system includes. And my plan now is to drill into those areas that I found to be of most common interest when it comes to quality systems. So once again, that will be flowing through what an inspector sees, what they are led to do with data collection, how they can move that a rejection to a nonconformance, what root cause analysis and corrective action looks like, and how a person utilizing the system might interface with it using what I'm calling here a home page. So let's turn off PowerPoint and go into the system where I will log in as a quality user. So here I've opened the quality system. I've logged in as a particular user. So I am shown what that user, what we want that user to see. In this case, it's taken me directly to what I'm calling a home page, which has that particular user's KPIs on it. So these are the areas that we want this particular user watching, things like corrective actions, cost of quality, looking into supplier reliability, a quick look at their to-do list, some feedback items that might be open, as well as some shortcuts over here to things that this user goes to quite often. So I can have those home pages and have the experience that the inspector or that the user of the system sees based on what you want them to see. Otherwise, they're interfacing using using drop-down menus here to go into those areas that we spoke of before, things like those supplier audits, the findings of those supplier audits. So I'm going to actually take us through that process that I spoke of I'm an inspector and I need to see what's in front of me to inspect and then move on to processing an inspection. To best understand that process, let's look a little closer at that product inspection plan and talk about what's included here. So now what we're seeing is an inspection plan that's been created probably by a quality engineer that is specifying what's to be inspected, how often to inspect, and giving that line inspector or that incoming receiving inspector information of what they are to do. So in this case, this is inspection plan number 9. Inspection plan number 9 says when we receive this particular product from this particular supplier, that we are to follow this incoming inspection plan. Now, by the way, in-process inspection plans that you may have in your manufacturing and in an incoming receiving plans, the characteristics are the same, the things I'm going to explain. The difference is I might have multiple inspection plans for a product that I make, depending on where I am in the process. When it's an incoming inspection plan, I typically have one per product. So, so in this case, when this part is received, it's going to follow a skip lot sampling plan, and that plan says to check these 3 characteristics: thickness, roughness, and appearance. Now, these are going to be detailed characteristics where I'm asking for readings, where it's possible that a characteristic could simply be inspect to print, pass, fail. But if I want to start collecting specifics and trend information about how I'm doing with those different characteristics, then I may want to break that down. In this case, I have 3 of them. You might have 25 characteristics to be checked. You might have 1. In my case, I've got 3. If I want to look deeper at exactly what each characteristic gets in, what I'm really looking for, I'll go to page 2, inspection plan information, and down at the bottom here, I can see that for thickness on this part, I'm looking for a standard of 25 millimeters with a variable of plus or minus 5. So when I inspect this, I can be as low as 20, as high as 30, and still have a passing result. I also there can be extra instructions here for the inspector that they'll see at the time of inspection. If there's a particular device that is required that I want them to use, or a type of device, I'll put that here. I can also start to gather information or put some defaults here for how I want to chart that, whether I want to, by default, chart that with a histogram, an X-bar, an R-char, what it might be. So that's some of the information. I can also have documentation attached here and refer an inspector to that attached documentation to give them further instruction if I choose to. So that's just a few of the things that are here. So we now know that this particular part has this inspection plan. I'm going to look for those 3 characteristics. Now let's go see what the inspector sees. From an incoming inspection standpoint, that inspector might see a queue like this one. Incoming and receiving inspection. And here's the queue of items that are waiting to be inspected. Now, I want to draw your attention to a couple of areas. One's priority, the other is lot status. I'm going to sort by lot status, and we're just going to take a peek at what some of these are. Now, notice if the first thing that the system tries to do is to take that item that has come in and marry that item up with an inspection plan. If it cannot do that, then the status is going to move to no inspection plan's been defined, and now I need I need whoever's responsible for writing those inspection plans to tell me how I'm to inspect this. But if the system is able to marry that up, then it can also throw some additional statuses like first article. Lots can be put on hold. When someone else is inspecting something, it's going to be showing as, and when that inspection is started, it's going to be showing as in process. I have a couple here where I've already completed the data collection. So let's go look a little closer at one of these. Let's, just in the interest of time, we'll collect data against, or we'll go look at how this inspection plan was done. Now, as an inspector, I might decide that what I need to do is gather some additional information about that particular lot that was received. So when the item was received through ERP, the information being passed over here to IQM can be as simple as PO number, part, quantity. Well, from a quality standpoint, I may want some additional information. For example, I might want to know whether or not that cert has been received. I might want to go ahead and attach that cert and have a copy of it stay with this receipt so I know that's there. Now, if you look over here in the side, there's actually two documents attached. One is that cert, and there's also an attachment with a picture of a damaged box. So I can use attachments for multiple reasons. The point here with this, with coming to this receipt or lot maintenance, is that now I can add additional information that quality might want that's over and above the information that was added at the dock when this part came in. So, so here they've added a little bit of information. Yes, we got the dock, or the cert, and here is what the vendor's lot number was. Might be a different lot number than mine. Here's what the things like revision level were. If I split this lot of 1,000 into multiple receipts, if you will, or sublots, so that I can split up the chore of inspecting those, I can also document that I've done that. So that's one thing that this inspector can do. They can go add additional information, but when they're ready to actually perform the inspection, they'll drill into data collection, and the system will take them to this sheet that talks about what I'm to inspect and how many. So I don't know if you remember when we looked at the first characteristics of thickness, the instruction was do a good job. The three characteristics were thickness and roughness and appearance. And as I come down here, I can see that due to the sampling plan, even though the lot that was received was 1,000 pieces, I only need to inspect 3 samples. Now, in this case, I happen to need to inspect 3 samples of each of those characteristics, but in practice, it could be that I need to inspect 3 samples of characteristic number 1 and number 2, and maybe only 1 of characteristic number 3. So if I'm an inspector, I'm going to follow what this is telling me to do. It says pick up one of those samples, pick up this micrometer, and measure. You're looking for a specification on thickness of 25, plus or minus 5. Put your results right here. Pick up the second sample. Put your results here. Now, in this case, that second sample resulted in a nonconformance. The system put that warning there. So the system did the comparison of the reading to the standard to give me a nonconformance warning. So the inspector goes on and does their inspections, makes notes that they may need to make. In the third characteristic here was a pass-fail. So, assure both sides are verified during inspection, no scratches, blah, blah, blah. Did it pass or did it fail? Put your answer here. No, this one did not pass. So that makes a nonconformance. Did it pass? Yes or no? No, it did not pass. Nonconformance. Now, as the inspector goes to leave this area and their findings, they're given that secondary warning that says, hey, there was a nonconformance. What do you want to do about it? And then if you look at this button right here, right now it says, do you want to view the nonconformance that was created? Prior to saying, do you want to view that nonconformance, it said, do you want to create a nonconformance based on this information? And this inspector said yes. So now we're able to view that nonconformance number 49 that was created. But look what else happened here. The full lot has been failed. The system failed that lot, marked it as rejected, marked it as failed. Now, depending on the security you give your folks, you may allow them to move that to pending. You may allow them to move it to passed if it's a minor failure. Or you might decide to take that, leave it as failed, take that to a nonconformance, which is what this inspector did. So let's follow that train of thought. So here we were on data collection number 34, that's what it says up at the top. We inspected against inspection plan number 9, and then based on the rejection, we started a nonconformance number 49. Let's go look at that nonconformance. So here's the beginnings of that nonconformance. The system went ahead and could add some information based on the data collection, things like what's the part, who's it from, how many did we get, what PO number did it come in on, where did the inspection come from? Well, in this case, it came straight over from that data collection number 34. But now we have the ability to take some additional action based on this nonconformance. So, for example, maybe I want a second set of eyes to look at this. So maybe I want to assign this to someone else to verify. This gives the information collected from that someone else. They can specify what that disposition is. Here's some common dispositions. You can change these to match what your industry is used to seeing or what's commonly used for you. I can come back and give some things like cause and subject to this nonconformance once I have that information. I can move it directly on to a corrective action. Now, earlier we saw the inspection we did came from a purchase order, so that PO number is filled in here. If this rejection had come from a work order, I would see that information on this last ERP information tab instead of directly on my here in the PO number. Let's go follow this through to that nonconform or to the corrective action. So in this case, yep, there was corrective action created. Let's look a little closer at the first corrective action that was created. So we'll just drill into details here. And now we're looking at a corrective action sheet. Now, once again, some of this information is gathered from that nonconformance that I can specify now. Where's it coming from? What's the containment plan? How are we going to stop the bleeding, and who's responsible for that? And what are we doing about it? I can document what the corrective action is. Now, it could be that to determine a corrective action, I needed first to do a root cause analysis. Well, that's one of the uses for our projects, and that's what happened on this one. We did a root cause analysis, so let's go look closer at that project. So here is that project. It's been assigned to Murray. He's the leader. He's got a team. Now notice that that team can be across the supply chain. And then I can also document things like what meetings do we have planned? Well, in this case, we have one meeting planned. Here's the agenda. It's been held. Here's the minutes. Here's who attended. And any action items that came out of that meeting are also here. Who's got the action items? There's just one action item. Who's got the action item? What's the status of that action item? You know, was it on follow-up, I can see if it was effective, etc. So I have the full story in one place of how we determined what the root cause would be, and then I can come back and document the root cause here. I can also set a follow-up on that corrective action to determine if it was effective. So here's how we plan to follow up and see if that was an effective corrective action, and whether or not it was effective. In this case, it was not effective. So I can link one corrective action and reissue into a new corrective action, linking those two together. So once again, I'm getting that full story. So we'll reissue to a new corrective action, start over with our investigation into what that root cause analysis might be, and an effective corrective action. Now, one of the things that I want to point out here is that that on these corrective actions and also on the nonconformances, I don't want to leave you with the impression that they have to be started from a data collection like we did. We started from data collection, we moved into a failure that went to nonconformance. I can start a nonconformance at any point. I could be walking through the stockroom, pass a box that has a forklift hole in it, start a nonconformance. I could be out on the shop floor and notice the visitors that are within the red tape, the yellow tape, that don't have safety glasses on, and start a corrective action. I could start a nonconformance or corrective action based on the findings of an audit. So and other things. I could start one based on a feedback from a customer. So so those are some of the very common uses for quality. So I wanted to drill into those a little further than we did when we were talking about it on PowerPoint. So let's go back to what our users see as they first log in. So once again, this can be what I want them to see based on the information I want them paying attention to. I may want these things to be strictly informational. I may want them to be shortcuts and actionable. Let's just follow another train of thought here and be day in the life of this user. And let's say that today or right now they're looking to focus on some customer feedback, and they want more information about this particular item, so they can drill into that particular item. Now here's some customer feedback, for example. We want them to go look a little closer at this particular item, go into the details there, or do details, and then be able to gather some additional information about this particular customer, in this case, complaint that was received on June 14th. So who made the complaint? Who's it assigned to? What is the complaint? Who do we need to acknowledge that complaint? So Nancy might assign to someone else to get back to the customer to basically say, we heard you, we're looking into it, we will get back to you as soon as we possibly can. Then when we know what that response is going to look like, who's responsible for that? In this case, that response was to create a formal corrective action. So let's go look a little closer at that corrective action. Here's the corrective action. Who's that assigned to? We saw this same kind of flow a moment ago. So what's the immediate action? Well, we're going to inspect every box that goes out so we can find any similar damage. We found some that were similarly damaged. We launched an investigation project. What does that project look like? Let's drill in. Here's the team that was put together, including outside the customer. Let's see what they found in their meetings. So the agenda of the first meeting was to conduct a 5 why analysis and determine action items. The minutes of the meeting give us that 5 why analysis. Action items are attached. Let's go look at those. 3 action items came out of that, so we could drill in and look at each one of those. But they were basically to review the material handling procedures, the training course, the forklift procedures, and we could go ahead and look at additional information if we wanted to, but I think you're getting the point that we get that full, the full story again here in one place. How did we determine what, what the probable cause was? What actions did we put into place to stop the bleeding? And then for permanent corrective action. So on follow-up this time, sure enough, we found this one to be effective, and we didn't need to do a reissue of another corrective action tied to this one. Now, I did want to share with you some of the tool set that is here to help us with analyzing the data, and then I'll let you go and be on with your day. So now what I've done is I've opened up corrective actions because I want to do some analysis on corrective actions. You've probably noticed throughout the demonstration that there is this second screen, this kind of a screen in front of a screen, 2 panels, if you will. Well, this second panel can be revealed. We call it a splitter pane. And what you'll see there is all of the fields that are on the main form. So this is a place where I can do data entry. I can add things like move due dates. Maybe I want to filter this. Maybe I'm Nancy, and I want to filter this down to just my records. I can do that using something called filter in place. We'll do that, filter in place, and I'll just say try that again. Filter in place, and I'll specify that I'm Nancy. And then when I do that, it will filter to just my records off to the side here. So then I can go look at those items and maybe do some additional data entry to complete the records. I can use this to close out items that I've completed rather than calling up each record. I can also use it to do just that. Right now we're on record number 84. Maybe I want to be on 71. Maybe I want to be on 17, where I can go look at each of those, or I could leaf through them even using this next button, next, and take action and get information on each of those. So that's one way that makes the system easy to use. But let's filter in place this time and leave that blank, that employee, so that I get all records. Now, there are some additional tools here that I wanted to show you that I would use if I were a user, and one of those is called data views. So if I want to, oh, by the way, I can edit what columns are showing, put them in the order I want them in, and more there. But if I want to take this, I'm going to take this to a data view to do some additional analyzing. So notice that the screen changed a little bit. Well, it also added some tools up here that I can utilize. For example, now I can start to, let's group by employee. So I'm just grabbing employee number and dragging it up there. So now I can see which employees have what items, or who has the most items. Nancy has the most items. Maybe I want to further send that group that by, let's do it by, something like cause, or that might make sense. So now let's group by cause. Maybe I want to go, now I can see how many of each person's items are by which causes. Maybe I want that the other way around. Cause, and then who's responsible for telling me what's going on with those items. So, so this tool can be utilized to do some analyzing that way. I like it better the other way, by the way. So we'll redo that. And then maybe I want to take this out to something common to report on, for example, Excel. So I can send that over to Excel. When it goes to Excel, it goes in the same format with the groupings So I don't have to redo any of that when I get over there to Excel. Those groupings are there, and now of course I can make charts and graphs. I can make charts and graphs also within the system, within quality, but you know, just so you're aware, this common tool that we all tend to know and love called Excel is something I can easily send information to and bring information back from. So just to go back, typically in the Infor Quality Management system, folks are interfacing through something like this homepage, which can be completely personalized to your use. The system comes with all of the things we talked about as we walked around the block. You decide which ones you want to implement. Of course, there's strength in implementing things together. For example, the example I gave of I have inspection plans that tell me what to inspect, when to inspect, how many to inspect, what characteristics to inspect, and what devices to inspect with. So as I go to do data collection and perform an inspection and do data collection, the system is going to lead me to what I should be inspecting, which will feed me to my results as far as pass-fail, trending, etc. But it will also stop me from using a device that's outside of calibration. If I'm using calibration management, it will lead me to creation of a nonconformance if I'm utilizing the nonconformance management. So you know, as you can imagine, there is strength in implementing multiple parts of this system. I want to thank you for spending 40 minutes of your time with me, and if you need additional information, talk to your account manager. And I again appreciate the time you spent.